Hey, so somebody had asked about troubleshooting their laser, and I'm not a super expert, but I know enough about electronics to at least get somebody started. Plus, this video might just show you how it's supposed to work, just the lights blinking and everything, so it's easier to figure out. So here I've got a 7050. I'm going to turn it off. Everything turns off. So a quick overview of the components. I've got this side panel off, sorry, here's where I'm at. It's actually marked, this is the laser power supply. This is the 24 volt. My guess is it also makes 5 volts, but I don't know, power supply. This is the main controller, I believe. And this is actually way more sophisticated than I thought because it gives you little lights that show what's going on. And then down here, these are the 2 stepper motor drivers. And they're even labeled Y-axis, X-axis. It's really nice of them. So here when we power it up, you'll see some lights come on. Goes through, does some testing stuff. Sweet. So, this right here, we've got limit X negative, limit Y, or Y negative. Well, these are the limit switches that tell it when it's at the home position, or maybe not technically the home position, but the corner, so it has some idea where it's at. Over here, you've got 24 volts, so here you should have this green light on as soon as you turn the laser on. And there's where ground comes in. This is going to be the main power for the controller, the stepper drivers, all that fun stuff. Down here you've got the lasers. So apparently this machine could, in theory, control 2 lasers. Laser 2 is just shorted out so that it, I don't know, for some reason. And then over here you've got the other stuff for the laser 1, which is the one it uses. So we can actually do some fun stuff here. It's hard to tell, but this light is actually on. That's the door switch. Now I'm going to manually close the door. You see it goes on. So that's an easy thing to troubleshoot. If that light is on, I don't believe the laser will fire. Mine has a little, yeah, it has a little bypass switch on the front cover that lets you turn that on and off manually. So anyways, that's what I would check first. Make sure these lights are coming on. If they're not, then pretty much guaranteed the 24 volt power supply is not working. What's nice is that 24 volts is fairly safe. But you have to be careful because coming in the top there is not just 24 volts, but also 110. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to unplug the machine so I know it's off. Now I'm going to flip down this little plastic cover. And now I'm going to power it back on by plugging it back in. And now I've got a multimeter. So you can get these, Harbor Freight has a cheap one. You can buy a decent one online, lots of places to get it. And it's got 2 leads. Now typically these will have 2 or more places to put it in, to put these leads in. And one of them is usually for current. So this one on the left is just for current. You'll rarely use this when troubleshooting. You can use it, but you'll rarely use it. Instead, you'll pretty much always use voltage. We want to check, I want to see where the 24 volts DC is on this 24 volt power supply. So what I've got is I've got the meter set to 200 volts DC. I could set it to 20 volts DC, but 20 is the max. It usually won't hurt the meter if you go over the max, but it just goes to a 1 on the display instead of actually showing you the voltage. So I'm going to go back to 200. Now I'm going to show them, I'm going to come in here. We've got the red and the black. And I'm just going to go on an assumption that that's 1. And you do have to be a little careful because if you cross things up, it's bad. So, doing this one-handed, odds are good, I'll mess it up. So I got nothing there, that's interesting. Oh hey look, it's got markings right here. Hard to see, but under this flap there's markings. And we've got 24 volts. Another red and black pair. Let's try these 2. Let's be really careful not to ground something out by accident. Sweet. Now on the multimeter, we can see we got 24 volts. So, anyways, that's basic troubleshooting. I know that more needs to be done, but you can also think of this whole machine as, think of it as a water hose with a splitter on it. So the electricity comes in from one spot, and that's here. It goes through the power switch, the main one here, Then you got the laser switch, and all throughout this, just think of it as a series of like valves and water hoses that branch out, and the branches rarely come back together and touch. So usually what you do is you start at the beginning, so you'd start here and make sure you have 120 volt power. Then what I would do is come to your 24 volt power supply and check the 120 volt in, which I don't know what it is. You'll have to get a mirror and a light to see what it is. Take your meter, set it to 200 volts AC, make sure you have AC power there. If you don't, that means the problem is between there and the switch. And then you just keep working your way down the line, checking each circuit or water hose to make sure they have power where they should. And also there's some nice simple indicators, like, you've got this green light on the power supply. If you turn the laser on and that light is not on, waiting for it to turn off. Oh, did my switch just break? There we go. You notice the light turned out? That means that it's off. So if you turn the switch on and that light's out, it's a good indicator there's something broken, either the power supply or between the power supply and the switch. Then you've got this guy over here. If none of those lights come on, but the green light does and the fan goes on, there's a good chance there's a problem between here and here, or that that's broken. You can also just come up here and check and make sure that these plugs are secure. This one here, I believe, goes up to the controller, and then these, the U-disc and the PC, are just extensions that come here. Anyways, good luck. I hope this helps some.